Hi, I'm Jonah Comstock, Editor-in-Chief of pharmaphorum here at ASCO 26. It's the last interview of day 2, and I'm joined by Eric Richards, the Vice President at GSK. Give me your full title.
Yes, sir. Senior Vice President, Head of Oncology Project Leadership.
Head of Oncology Project Leadership. Thank you. So this is a pretty big ASCO for GSK, right? You guys have some, quite a few different papers and some really interesting data to share. Give me a little bit of the snapshot, the overview.
It is an exciting ASCO for us. We have a number of data readouts that came. One of the most exciting for me was long-term follow-up of Jemperli in the Ruby study. These are patients that have been treated with Jemperli, which is a PD-1 checkpoint inhibitor, and chemotherapy. And what's exciting about this data is that as we've followed these patients out for a long duration of time, we're finding that a certain proportion of these patients are essentially functionally cured. And wow, what a miraculous thing this is, that for these patients to actually have a probability for some of these patients to be cured. We've had some data disclosed on velsatinib. This is our next generation KIT inhibitor. Very exciting. We're excited for this drug because it builds upon the legacy that imatinib already established, which is sort of the grandfather of precision medicine. But there's still an unmet need here. With imatinib, it hits the sensitizing mutations that drive the disease, but eventually patients do progress. There are mutations that occur, secondary mutations, which drive the progression. This drug addresses them in a potent and selective way with a very, very favorable safety profile. So we're really excited about the data that has come out from a phase 1 study demonstrating that it has activity in frontline and in second line, but very, very importantly, in those resistance mutations. That is the real benefit of this drug. So we're very excited about that. Lastly, we have some data on Blenrep in the frontline setting of multiple myeloma, which demonstrates the importance with this drug of the higher, more frequent dosing in an induction period, but then the benefit of being able to stretch out the dosing in the maintenance period, which is a strategy we're using in the frontline setting, in our ongoing phase 3 study in the frontline setting, and how that can be a benefit of driving deep, durable responses that continue even as you stretch out the dosing as you go further into the treatment timeline. So we're very excited about those pieces of data.
Yeah, I remember Blenrep when I was here at ASCO 2 years ago. We had some good data there, and everyone was talking about it because it had sort of pulled the drug back from potentially not being in the market. There'd been some bad data, but this is the same study, the Dream7, right? That's a long longitudinal study, and we have even more data now.
We do with Dream8, and that's the other piece, is the Dream8 data with long-term responders. And what we show is that those patients that are able to obtain a long-term response, the quality of their response is better than even those patients on a control arm that also had a long-term response. So the depth of the response matters in terms of long-term outcome. And I think we're very happy, we're very proud for the resilience and the belief in Blenrep that it can offer a really valuable option for patients. And I think these data from Dream8, as well as the recent approvals around the world, demonstrate that the resilience mattered.
I've seen quite a few myeloma studies, and amongst the kind of top abstracts people are talking about, is that a space that's got a lot of innovation happening in it right now?
Yeah, it's exciting. There's a lot of really wonderful things happening for patients in this space. And in the last several years, with the advent of CAR-Ts and bispecifics and the quads in the front line, there's a lot of advancements for patients, which makes this disease more into a chronic disease. In fact, some of the discussions we've been having with KEEs recently, we've started talking about cure models. Imagine where you're actually thinking about essentially a functionally cure, going back to the whole Jemperli example. Nonetheless, there is an unmet need that exists here, because as this disease becomes one that is long and prolonged, there are many needs for options in order to address the disease along the journey. And one of the benefits of Blenrep is this ability for something off the shelf that can be used in a community setting, and that when you get into the longer term therapy can be stretched in the dosing, which is what we're studying in the frontline setting. So blessing that we have so many options here, yet amongst those options, we still have unmet need. That's why we continue to pursue the development of Blenrep.
Right. Yeah. I mean, generally in cancer, there's so many subsets of subsets that there's always going to be an unmet need to fill, right?
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
hopefully not always, but
Well, hopefully not always.
you mentioned, functional cures with Jemperli, and then again here. I mean, when you say functional, what do you mean? I mean, is it like we can't call it a cure until we've seen, you know, long term data?
Sure.
But so far,
Sure. What the data shows is that if you, once you have not progressed out to a certain point, in this case around 4 years, your probability of being cured is essentially X. And what we saw is that about 54% of this population could be functionally cured, is what the data shows. It's a probability at a milestone, which is remarkable. I mean, if we take the clock back not but 10 years ago, the proposition in this particular disease setting of a cure, I mean, I think it would have been heresy to even suggest it, but here we are.
you talked about combining PD-1 inhibitor with chemotherapy. And I've also heard folks talking about combining those checkpoint inhibitors with ADCs. And I know that chemo, from a quality of life standpoint, ideally would be able to move past it completely. But what's your feeling about sort of where we are there, and how pursuing all these different not just monotherapies but combinations? Is that sort of a step along the journey for you, or is this kind of the yeah, I guess, like, how long do you think chemo is going to still be a part of
Sure.
standard of care?
I think it's an excellent question. I mean, my sense is that the chemo in different disease settings is going to be part of the standard of care for a foreseeable future. But the intent and why we're so excited about the development of ADCs is there is an incredible potential to displace some of these legacy chemotherapies with an ADC that has the ability to be dosed for a longer period of time, may have a preferential safety profile, may be more specific to the cancer rather than the sort of shotgun approach of a legacy systemic chemotherapy. And the data that we've seen with checkpoint inhibitors, immune approaches, and combining with chemotherapy has demonstrated in certain settings that it can be very, very effective. We highly suspect the same thing will be true with ADCs and combining. I think there are two critical points as we look to ADC development. One of you've hit upon, which is the combination strategy, because cancer is a very complex disease, has a very complex mutational and immunological landscape that has to be addressed. So combination helps you to address that. But the other one, which is really key, is biomarker. It's trying to identify those patients who are most likely responding. All the ADCs, well, not all of them, but a great deal of them demonstrate some level of clinical activity. Trying to understand who that patient is a priori, I think is a critical task for pharmaceutical companies to endeavor in.
Yeah, so getting all the other pieces of that precision medicine piece right,
Yep.
it's gonna be necessary. Whereas chemo is a bit more forgiving in that way.
Yeah.
Um, Talking of all these kind of studies that you've mentioned, taking a step back, how does this all fit into sort of GSK's larger strategy?
Our strategy has a foundation first in what we've established already in hematologically with Blenrep through multiple myeloma, and the legacy we have in gynecological cancers through niraparib, through Jemperli. There's been a substantial amount of focus and resource allocation into the ADCs amongst various tumor types. MoRes, we had data that was highlighted at SGO, very, very promising data in platinum-resistant ovarian cancer with a 68% response rate, really encouraging. We're launching in 5 phase 3s in that area. So gynecological cancer remains extremely important for us. B7H3 is going to afford us the opportunity to move in many different tumor types because the expression of B7H3 is broad. So we have opportunities in lung cancer, small cell, as well as non-small cell lung cancer, in prostate cancer, in CRC, pancreatic cancer. It's a very broad expression. So there's a potential for GSK commitment beyond our typical hematological and gynecological cancers into foundational diseases in cancer, such as lung cancer and prostate cancer.
Great. Yeah. So what you're proving here is going to have potentially much broader application.
Yes.
And just to wrap up, we're about halfway through ASCO. Anything you've heard or seen so far that's been really interesting or exciting to you, or any trends that are emerging for you?
I think I think we're in an exciting time within oncology, where the innovations that we're seeing from things like biospecifics and the sort of next generation of understanding how the immune system relates to cancer is very exciting. I think it's really, really building momentum beyond just hematological cancers into solid tumors. So, and that's an area within our early research portfolio that we're actively pursuing also. For me, that's very, very exciting. Um, Understanding how the immune system is related to cancer and understanding immunophenotypes and what those patients who are most likely to have an active immune system that's able to combat the cancer, that for me is the sort of golden trophy. We really, really need to pursue that. And I think some of the activities we're seeing with things like bispecifics moving on beyond checkpoint inhibitors is moving us more in the direction to understand further the immune environment of cancer.
Great. Thank you so much, Eric. Really
Thank
great
you.
chatting with you.
Thank you.
And congratulations.
Oh, thank you so much.